Hey y'all, this is my capstone instructional unit, and what I'm going to be covering here is the mixing process from start to end. It's going to be a very broad overview, but I am going to try to cover as much as I can. So the first thing that I do when I sit down to mix something is add a channel strip on every single source in this session. So it's going to be on the kick drum, it's going to be on my vocals, it's going to be on my guitars, it's on every single thing. And this already does a couple of things to sweeten up the sound. So let me turn all those off, and then we're going to listen. And then we're going to turn them on. So already we can hear it's doing something to the sound, and if you're not listening on headphones or through a decent set of speakers, I highly encourage you to put headphones on, because if you're not going to be able to tell what I'm doing. The channel strip is important for a bunch of reasons. So we start over here at the preamp section. This is just metering. Preamp section, this allows us to dial in the level of gain. I hardly ever touch this. The only reason I would touch this is if I want to affect a certain type of change, and that would be called saturation. So preamp saturation is really big on these old Neve consoles. Oh yeah, I should probably also mention that. This plugin is an emulation of the effectively priceless Neve 8028 Studio console. These are very, very rare pieces of equipment. They were often custom built. Like, there's one at East West Studios in Los Angeles that was custom built for Michael Jackson in the 80s. Dave Grohl personally bought one for his own home studio. They're very rare. They're very hard to get your hands on, and the Neve consoles that you can get your hands on are very expensive pieces of gear. And this piece of software right here basically just lets me make it sound like I'm running all my stuff through one of those. So that covers our preamp section. This next strip here is our EQ, or equalizer, and what this does is lets me single out certain frequency spectrums and accentuate or depress them. If we just solo the guitar here, listen to it. Let's say that I want more 10K, 10 kilohertz in my sound. I can set this to 10, and then I can raise this, and you hear it getting harsher, right? And then say I might want to, oh, that's too harsh, I want to pull it back. I pull this back, and you hear the sound gets a lot darker. The next section is the compressor. So what the compressor does, it's essentially going to take the loud sounds, make them quieter, the quieter sounds, make them louder. It's going to squish the signal, kind of, and make everything more even across the board. And then our gate section over here in the fourth column, this is going to kind of cut out background noise. So an example of where that would be useful would be like this being a live drum set. I recorded this in a room, and I recorded everything at the same time. So I had microphones on each drum, and then over the kit to catch the cymbals. So if we listen to the tom mics here, you'll see it's labeled floor tom and rack tom. If we listen to these, you can tell that there's other stuff in there that's not ideal. Like, we don't want that in there, and sometimes that's going to muddy up our sound. That's where the gate comes in, and this is essentially just going to say, okay, anything that is below this loudness is going to get cut down, and then this last strip here controls my overall output. So that's the channel strip explained. I'm going to do a quick time lapse here, and while I'm doing the time lapse, I'm going to explain bus routing and why that's important, just so I don't have to waste time on it as I do it. Hey y'all, Editing Jacob here. Really quick, dirty explanation of bus processing and routing and why it's important. So if I want the drums on one fader, I don't want to touch all 6 faders. If I want to change the volumes of the drums, I just want to change the kit as a whole. I send each fader to a bus, and then that bus controls the volume of the entire drum kit. Super handy, right? But what I can also do is I can open other buses that have effects on them and send the drum bus, just the drum kit, to the effect bus, and that signal gets affected, and then I can route that affected signal somewhere else. They're super duper handy for mixing a bunch of different things really quickly. Anyhow, back to the video. So here, if you want to go back and listen to the clips that I played before, this is the difference we're going to see. Sounds a lot different. Next up is bus processing. So we're gonna select all of the instrument tracks, and I'm gonna add a bus for selected tracks. I'm gonna name it instrument, and then I'm gonna make another bus, and I'm gonna call it vocal, and I'm gonna route the vocal to the vocal bus. So now if I hit play, we'll see that what I can do is I can mess with this, and I can cut the instrumental down, and the vocal's more present, or I can make the vocal basically non-existent. On the vocal, everything in this strip is still set to the default settings, and that's because I do a little bit of extra stuff to my vocal to get it to sit a little bit more comfortably in the mix and get the volume that I want out of it. And I put all of these effects in here before the channel strip because in a studio workflow, that's what you would also do. Hey friendos, Editing Jake here again. So my signal chain for the vocal is really pretty basic because this is just a rock vocal. I do some de-essing to get rid of the harsh hissing noises in some syllables. Then I hit a sweetening EQ to give me some top end presence and some body to the vocal. Then I go into a compressor like the TubeTech CL1B. Really like that thing. It gives a really nice kind of character to my voice. And then I'm hitting the channel strip just like you would in a studio setting. Okay, so now the vocal is mixed. Now we're gonna get to buses. This bus, I'm going to have reverb, and then this bus, a slapback delay, which is essentially just a really fast delay, and we can't forget a drum bus. The drum bus is very important, especially for projects like this. So instead of sending the drums to the instrument bus, I'm going to send them to the drum bus, and then the drum bus will go to the instrument bus. What this is going to let me do is it's going to let me hijack this drum signal and send it somewhere else. Now, usually when you record drums in a professional studio, they have microphones that they'll put far off the kit in the room to catch the sound of the room. I don't have enough microphones for that, and I also don't have the right kind of microphones. So I'm going to make my own drum room, and I'm going to put a little reverb on here. This is like an industry standard plugin. Any record that came out past like probably 2010 or so, this thing was used somewhere on that record. I'm going to send my drums with the sends here to the drum room. Now we're going to hear, if I solo this up, we're going to be able to hear that those drums come through with a big reverb on them. Now that's a little bit more reverb than I really want on them. So what I can do is I can go to the presets here. I can go to rooms, and I'll pick like large wood room. And now that sounds like it was recorded off the kit in a room with some nice character to it. Hey guys, Editing Jake here again, and you know, my smile and optimism were pretty well intact up to this point, but I've got about 7 minutes and 50 seconds worth of clipped content, and I've still got about 52 to 55 minutes worth of stuff sitting in the timeline that needs cut down, and you know, I'm just kind of realizing there's absolutely no way that I'm going to be able to get this thing to 10 minutes or less, not in the time that I have. So, a brief rundown of the stuff that I did during the course of the time-lapse you're seeing on screen right now. I did some parallel compression on the drums. I sent the instrument and vocal buses to the drum room short little like reverb thing that I just set up, and that kind of makes it sound like the entire band is in the same space. I mean, in reality, it's like I recorded the drums, then I got up and I recorded guitars, then I got up and recorded bass, then I went and recorded vocals, and like it was all just me. So blending that room in makes it sound like there was an actual band, you know, playing. Then I did some master bus processing, which is essentially applying little like tiny tweaks to the entire like whole track to give it some extra loudness and just make it sound quote unquote radio ready. Now what I would normally do, if you know, given the time, is I would finish this mix, I would put it on my phone, and then I'd go out to my car and listen to it through a car speaker system, like a car stereo. And that's really commonly done. Essentially, speakers and headphones lie to you. If you can make something sound good through a car speaker system, then it'll sound good through pretty much anything. So I'd normally do that test, and then I'd come back and make the changes that I think need made, and then I'd go back out to the car and check it again, and then I'd come back and, you know, make the little tweaks that need made. But I didn't have time for that, and I didn't have time to record that whole process. I'm already, you know, at my time, and I'm cutting 50 minutes out of the entire thing. But I will be uploading the full uncut video. It's about an hour and a half long. I'll be uploading that on my YouTube channel. I'm going to put the name of that on screen right now. If for whatever reason you're interested in, you know, seeing the entire thing, there is commentary through the entire thing. It's not just me sitting there tweaking for the most part. But if you're interested in that, it's on my channel, and I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Thanks.